all, and welcome back to the FRS. We're here back with Xbox Division 1 and Round 8, and at a new track this time around. Portimao in Portugal is where we are headed this week, so we'll see as we get back underway how the drivers can contend with this up and down roller coaster of a circuit, learning it for the first time in the F1 games. So here's the track: 15 corners, 4.653 kilometers, 2 DRS zones, one down the long main straight, shortened from the real F1 race last season to give it a little bit less power, but adding that second DRS zone down into the tight hairpin of turn 5. As I said, plenty of roller coaster action up and down. ABS and traction control could help out some drivers, so it's going to be very important for them to maintain that grip on the circuit and not eat up their tires. But here we are taking a look at the driver standings before we come into this one. MJ Povey out in front on 128 points ahead of Habs fan Nick. QX Nemesis rounds out the top 3, though he is tied with Quimbulus, that tiebreaker being on the finishing positions. LC Fighter, the other Aston Martin, is in 5th, followed up by Brenchel, who took the season opening win, has 50 points to their name. Isse and Johan sandwich around the Ferrari driver of El Gloverino, and Pepmeister rounds out the top 10. Voki is in 11th place with Cryptic just behind in 12th, and Kem only one further point back in 13th. Jinx has 17 points to their name, and Galia is back on the Xbox grid, taking a podium in his first action back on the Xbox console after the PC division's getting put on hold for a little bit. Then you have Statman, Joey, and Stanier, the other McLaren Reserve and McLaren Full-Time, tied on 12 points apiece. Mid Falcon is in 18th, and a couple drivers just getting back on the grid at the tail end. And we have, in the constructors standings, we have Williams ahead of Ferrari, with Aston Martin rounding out the top 3. Mercedes and AlphaTauri are in a tight battle with McLaren right within striking distance there. Red Bull has 53 points and is in 7th place ahead of Haas with 33. Alfa Romeo and Alpine are battling it out for that final position in the Constructors' Championship. So let's go ahead and get underway as we join the action here right at the start of qualifying. We're setting up for our first flying lap of this Portimao circuit. Open the DRS, cross the start-finish line, and get underway. Now, with the addition of it here, they haven't really optimized the electrical deployment, the hot lap mode, so you do have to save a little bit. You have to turn your ERA from hot lap down to none and try and save it. Otherwise, you will run out at the end of the lap if you leave it in its full deployment mode for the entire qualifying lap. But through turns 1, 2, and 3, but running a little bit wide on the exit there of turn 4, and that's going to invalidate our first attempt. So we fueled up for 2 runs because invalidations are so common and so easy to pull here, to go back-to-back runs right at the start of this qualifying session. So here we go, pitching it into the fast turn 1 over the curbs. Have to catch a little bit of oversteer there as we got onto that sausage curb. Now hard on the brakes for turn 3. Very slow corner there, getting on the power gradually up the hill, trying to keep the back end in check, not getting full throttle till you really get the car settled. Now blasting it down towards turn 5. Downhill braking zone just after the 100 meter board there, all the way down to about a 50-mile-an-hour corner. Now hard on the power, getting up the hill. So much time on this track spent keeping the rears in check. Flick it in for the fast right-hander, then on to the uphill right-hander, slow it down into 3rd gear. Very easy to lose the rear of the car in that corner. And now back down the hill, back up the hill as we get ready to pitch it through the 3rd sector. Double apex right-hander, very tough to find the braking point there. It's a very blind on the entry. And then up the hill as we get ready to start the final sector. And coming around this final corner, we're just a little bit too aggressive on the power, and the back end comes around on us. And after invalidating that first lap, we have spun and cost ourselves the other lap. So we come in, we get a brand new set of tires and get ready to go again. 10 minutes left to go in this 18-minute qualifying session. So we'll see if we can get a good lap time in this time around. So back down into turn 1, flick it right, try and hold just the exit there. So easy to run out wide and invalidate, and especially in the race, it's going to be very important to try and stay as clean as possible. Track limits penalties could be a big issue for this one. So now we're up about 2 tenths on our previous best lap, which of course was that slow lap where we invalidated. So we're going to be gaining time all the way through here as we really started lifting off the power through turn 5, then through turn 6 and 7, uphill right-hander of 8, again just kind of easing the power on until the car really feels settled. As you're coming over those crests, it's so difficult to get the throttle on. Same with this traction zone here. As the track falls away, you can see the back end just starting to get a little bit wild. But now through this long left-hander, so easy to lock the brakes and understeer and go wide. And now a very awkward final 2 corners. You really have to wait, get on the power as early as you can when you feel the car's unwound. And then the final corner, long right-hander, uphill, downhill, flat out, no lifting of the throttle. And there you go, seeing us open the DRS and cross the line. And that is going to put us on a 117.8. And that at the moment has us provisionally P9. So we're going right back out for another run, but there's the exit of turn 1 track limits. We've invalidated that one and lost that lap. But here we are at the tail end of the session. 4 minutes left to go, and going for our final flying lap this time around. So crossing that start-finish line, starting the timer there. Down a little bit on the final exit as a couple of cars are coming out of the pit lanes, but we stay well clear of those. A little slow through turn 1 and really down about a 1/10 of a second, but you can see gaining a lot of time through a better entry into turn 3 and just keeping it about level on that exit. So only about a 1/2 a 10th down at this stage and trying to make up that last little bit of time in the final minutes of this qualifying session. Once again, getting on the power, really just hovering right around our old delta time, trying to find a place to improve, pitching it for the right hander up the hill, a little early on the brakes that time, and that's going to cost us a tiny bit, although we did a better run through the corner, got on the power a little bit more. So now we've got that delta up into the green. Now just have to be brave through this corner. A little slow on the brakes there. Now getting the throttle down, and ooh, the back end's gone around into the barrier we go, and away goes that entire front right corner of the car. So we are unable to set a new lap time and improve. Our teammate Sid on the grid for the first time is P2, just a 1/2 a 10th behind MJ Povey on pole position. Then you've got Brenschel, LC Fighter, Jinx, Gallymooms, Mid Falcon Stanier, and Cryptic towards the back here. So here we are, the start of the race, 15th out of 17. Nemesis serving a quality ban from penalty points starts him at the back. We go with the hard compound of tires and try and get a good start. Gally slow off the get-go, and we are going to go just a little bit wide as there's a little contact. And Gally checks up through turn 2, and into the back of him we go. Somehow we avoid wing damage on that one. We caught him just basically square, but that has spun us around right to the back of the grid, trying to keep the tires temperatures now in check, getting on the throttle nice and easy. But we are going to be way off the back of this group, and now with it being a new track, it is going to be a lot of people potentially making mistakes. So on those hard tires, we can go very long. It's all about getting our head down and getting back underway. So it looks like a couple of cars are starting to drop down the field. There's caution up ahead of us. And Cameron Slater and Voki are both off. 2 drivers on the soft compounded tire have had a bit of an off and a slide. So they are going to go behind us. But we have a very slow run through that section there. It's always been so hard to find that braking zone for that set of corners, just because it's so blind, and without the racing line you really don't know what line to take, when to brake, and that one you just can't really see where you're going. So unfortunately we lost a fair bit of time to Voki and Cameron Slater there, and of course they are on the soft compounded tires. So as they get there themselves up moving in, as Stanier has had an off through the final corner, so that's going to drop him right back behind us. And you see we're actually ahead of our starting position now after 1 lap and being spun through the second corner. Now Voki having a little bit of a look to the inside as we come through turns 1, 2 on the brakes of 3. He's got that plenty of extra grip over us, a 2-step softer advantage on those softs compared to our hards. So he is definitely going to have plenty of pace available to try and make a move past us in those grip zones where we really need to get the throttle down. Now here he is, coming up the back end, switching a little bit to the inside, getting that drag down, but we are using the overtake, trying to get a good run, and there he goes around the outside. He's going to try and go. We, just through the momentum, weren't quite prepared for him to be there, and big swapper as the back end really comes around through turn 8 there, and it really makes it a challenge to try and get up, turn 6 rather. But now we have lost that position to Voki. He has 3 seconds of time penalties already, so has had a bit of an off going, trying to push hard and get back into this race. So we're now back to 15th out of 17, and a good chunk back of the drivers who have not had any issues. And we've gone wide, we've understeered wide through the penultimate corner, and that is going to give Cameron Slater a pretty good run on us. So here he is in the toe, in the slipstream. Has to back out a little bit as he gets just too close to that one-line corner. But now he's got that slipstream on us. He's going to pull to the inside.
The track is clear.
DRS is enabled. Looks like we might be running a bit more downforce than some of the other teams. So now here we are. We're going to slow up. He goes wide of the apex, and that's going to give us back the inside as we cut back underneath him and managed to hold that position, at least for the time being, as he went a little bit deep. And we kind of forced him to make a deeper lunge with where we positioned the car and then cut back underneath him. All the while, Voki is getting away, as is El Gloverino. You can see about 5.2 seconds out ahead of us now, and plenty to do in this 33-lap race. We're 1/11th of the way through a lap 3 here of 33. And really, it's all about, we're going to try and use these hard compounded tires was the original strategy, to go long to try and hope for a safety car at the mid or late point of the race and go ahead and go on to either the medium or the soft tires, depending on when the safety car might come out. So plenty of cars have looped it around so far already, but no safety cars. Nobody's out of the race at this stage as MJ Povey sets the fastest lap, although Sid right behind is pressurizing him quite a bit at this stage. Down into turn 1 they go. You can see the little blips of the of turn 1 just behind my camera there. There's yellow flags out ahead as Jinx is going very slow. He's got DRS though, so he was right up behind somebody as he lost it, and we're going to try and slipstream, but no, not enough. And now Cameron Slater is going to try and have a little bit of a move as he's got the DRS on us, and we're going to try and go to the inside, and Jinx pinches us right down to the apex. We're going to go ahead and get up the inside of him into turn 3 there, and now that's going to compromise Cameron Slater as they have a little bit of bumper cars in the rearview mirror there, and we have managed to slink right past Jinx there, nearly getting chopped off into turn 2 there as he closed down to the apex. But we are still just ahead of a couple of drivers on the soft compound tires, so they are going to be have the ability to be much quicker. But that's Voki, who's gone around once again in turn 8, really, or turn 7, really proving to be an issue for several drivers there. You saw me lose it in the middle part of the race. Have to make some corrections in qualifying, so it's definitely a very difficult corner to try and get in. And that's a big send from Cameron there, who forces us right off the track there. Now you try and get into the slipstream of him, as though he's made the overtake there, he wasn't before the DRS detection point, so now we are behind him and we are going to have DRS on him. So we are using that electrical deployment, using that overtake as much as we can. Now in the slipstream, closing. We're going to try and pull out nice and late, get to the inside, and he's going to go right onto the curbing there, hold around the outside of us. We're going to try and have an attack through the right-hander of turn 3, and it's side by side. He makes a little nudge of us, shoves us off there, and we have to make a big correction as the back end tries to step out on us. And he's got some glitching in his positioning there, so we have a little bit of a hesitant moment to try and avoid contact with him. But there we go with Jinx all over our left side there. You can't see the proximity arrows, but he was all over us, and we've just got to kind of yield that position as we had our entry compromised by his positioning there. He definitely had the high ground through that quick right-hander, and fortunately Cameron Slater getting his elbows out has cost us a bit of time. But jumping ahead now, lap 6, safety car came out earlier in the lap, and we have decided the hard tires not working for us down towards the back. We're going to go ahead and make the cheap pit stop and then get caught up with the field. So unfortunately not in a position for any tires to go to the end of the race. So we are going to go on to the medium tire, and if there is a second safety car, depending on when that comes out, go on either to another set of mediums to get to the end, or go on to the softs at around lap 21 to 23. So we come out just behind Jinx and Cameron Slater once again. Maintained position. We haven't lost any ground to Voki or Stanier, who Voki has had to make a pit stop, is on the hard tires now. Stanier on the medium tires. So back out on lap 7, and we will jump back ahead to the restart. So here we are, lap 8 of 33. Safety car is coming in. The field is getting bunched up for the restart. The final corner, nobody's gone quite yet. The field, though, accelerating, increasing speed. Trying to be careful with how we get on the throttle, because you can see the field bunching right back up. So we got to lift out and just try and time that acceleration to get a good run, as it looks like the leaders kind of slowed up through that one. But in the slipstream with Cameron Slater, not going to be close enough to really make an attack. He's gone wide through turn 1, though. Big snap of oversteer through turn. We're going to pitch it down the inside. Now cars sideways everywhere, avoiding the action of the Alpha Tauri that's off the track there. We're up into 13th now. We have Voki on the inside of us, swinging around the outside. There's a backwards car there. It looked like a Ferrari of Habs Van Nick. And Stanier now 3 wide down into turn 5 on the inside. Voki makes contact with Jinx in front of us, and we just have to hold around the outside and have to go so deep before we turn in. Nowhere for us to go, and we just kind of get ushered right off the outside of the track. With it 3 wide, there wasn't really any positioning that Voki could have given us with Stanier coming down the inside. So we've lost out on those positions once again in the interest of not being part of an accident. But again, this track's fairly difficult to overtake normally on, but with the field all bunched up, we just have had, poor luck or poor decision making in placing the car where we've been to try and we've got kind of just hung out to dry and not had good opportunities. But Stanier slow through the last couple of corners, Voki all over the back of him, and us trying to get the power down following this group. The overtake mode is on, but we are going to run out before the start-finish line, so our deployment is going to shut off, and you can see just the pace difference it makes. As soon as that shut off, you can see how much ground they pulled on us. So instead of having a run to try and make it past Stanier and Voki in front of us, now we've fallen back. But Voki, big snap of oversteer through turn 1. We have to get onto avoiding action. And now down the inside of Stanier there. We're just going to send it up the inside of turn 3. He's going to hold the ground on turn 4. Really big lift through turn 4 there as we make a little bit of contact with the rear of him, much slower than we were expecting him to go. And we have now gotten around him into turn 5 that time. So just getting on the power. Now we've got equal tires, and we are just ahead of Stanier. And now we've got to try and strike out in pursuit of Jinx, who's on those hard compounded tires, and Cameron Slater on the mediums just ahead of us. So some work to do, but you can see already on the top left there, 3 seconds for Cameron, 3 seconds for Jinx, 3 seconds for Stanier. So the penalties already flowing in fast and heavy at this early stage of the race. So far, we've managed to stay warning free, so we've avoided any kind of penalties, but we'll need to continue that and also up our pace a bit because we aren't quite as quick as some of the cars around us, as Habs Van Nick is starting to work his way through on those soft compound tires. We will still have to make one more pit stop before the end of this race. Starting on the hards, in retrospect, was not the correct move. We probably should have started on the mediums and gone there, but the original thought was to try and take the hards very deep into the race and one stop onto the softs at the end and hope for a safety car to kind of bail out our pit stop time there. But the early safety car, not ideal for us in that situation, as Cameron Slater's had a moment off turn 4 there, and around he goes, and one more position up we go. And we are starting to close on Jinx, who is 1.2 seconds ahead with that 3-second time penalty. We are going to try and catch him. We are on a softer compounded tire. We should have a pace advantage in order to try and make an overtake of that driver on the hard compounded tires. The best overtaking opportunity is into turn 1, of course, down the longest straight with that slipstreaming, but mistakes have been the overtaking opportunities so far here. And if we can just avoid mistakes, we can hold off. I do think setup-wise we carried a fair bit more downforce than a lot of the other cars on the track, so we didn't quite have the same straight line speed that others did, but we did have an advantage through some of the corners, as it looks like Stanier's made a little bit of a mistake behind us. Has dropped now to 1.3 seconds back, but we are now within that 1 second mark to Jinx in that Williams ahead of us. Or is it an Alpine? Not sure. With the DRS open, closing, checking the tires to make sure they're in a good spot so far. As I'm trying to do the math with my engineer to see if we have an opportunity to potentially stretch the mediums to the end of the race. But the prevailing opinion as we got around after making that lap, we picked up 3% of wear in that lap. So with taking 3% of wear every single lap would have put us pretty close to the danger zone with 20 laps left to go in this race. So not quite what we wanted to see there. Not quite close enough to make the move on Jinx into turn 5 either. Although big snap of oversteer as he's getting on the power through the uphill right-hander, though not quite enough of a mistake to give us a run to try and make a lunge. So we're just going to try and stay close. not make any mistakes following him through these final couple of corners, get ourselves in a good position to try and make an overtake down the front straight and into turn 1. Okay, such an awkward complex of corners, or pretty much the entire track is an awkward complex of corners. By far one of the hardest tracks I've had to learn for no racing line and no ABS and no traction control. It's just a big time challenge, but here we are in the DRS, in the slipstream with that overtake. You can see closing very quickly on him, and we're going to go right back to the racing line, kind of shut off his re-attack there. I'm sure he was expecting us to stay along the inside there and have an open lane, but we get right in front of him into turn 1 there. Fair move to make because we hadn't quite hit the braking zone, and I fully cleared him to be able to merge back in front, so there's no reason for me to leave any space for him and rather make him make an extra move to try and get around me. But that has put now Stanya right in the attack zone of Jinx behind. But let's jump ahead now, lap 20 of 33. We're thinking about making a move on some of the cars ahead of us. Chem comes in off of those mediums, so a couple of cars making the early moves on the pit stop. LC Fighter 2 seconds out ahead on the mediums, and we were originally thinking maybe to come in that lap, but the math just wasn't jiving in my head of how long I was going to have to take those soft tires to the end. Now we did have an opportunity to probably come in a couple of laps ago on another set of mediums, but there was no safety car called. We were really kind of hoping for another safety car later in the race, but we are just going to go ahead and push on for the time being. But definitely going to have to make a response to those cars that are coming in onto the tire changes. You can see Brenschel's got 3 seconds. Nemesis has 3 seconds behind us at the moment, who started on the back row, although on the softs now, going to be stretching those, I'm sure, to the tail end of the race. But as I was looking, I was realizing I was losing ground to LC. Started the lap 2.1 seconds back, now about 2.5. So the medium tire performance definitely not where I want it to be at this stage of the race, and that at that point is going to trigger us to make that final pit stop of the race. We don't think any more safety cars are going to come out, so you're going to see me open up the MFD and tell Jeff and my team that we are going to box this lap just to make sure they are prepared. LC Fighter staying out, and now hard on the brakes into the pit lane there and ease it in, make sure not to pick up any penalties. Sid, our teammate, goes by carrying the fastest lap of the race on his run up to try and take one. Although Nemesis taking that fast lap. So here we are, soft compound of tires go onto the car, and now the cars ahead of us going through. So Jinx is through. It looks like Gully Mooms is probably going to go through. El Gloverino and Chem are likely also going to go through as we are getting on the throttle coming out of the pit lane. Issei a little bit behind. It looks like we might come out just ahead of him as we slide a little wide on those soft compounded tires that are not quite up to temperature yet. Although no warnings because we were not gaining any time by going wide that time. So typically if you lift or if you don't gain time, the game doesn't always give you that track limits warning. But here we are, 3.2 seconds back of El Gloverino, 3.7 seconds back of Chem, about 1 to 2 lap fresher soft tires with 11 laps to go to the end. Now in testing, I found that I could do 11 laps on the worn soft tires. Now unfortunately I had no fresh soft tires. These are a qualifying set, but now we're going to jump ahead a couple of laps, lap 25 of 33, and now you can see El Gloverino has picked up a 3-second time penalty, and we are also within that 3 seconds of him. Issei behind us is about 1 second back in a potential threatening distance, but has 9 seconds of penalties. So really the key is going to be either staying out ahead of him, or if he does try and attack, not losing time to the group in front, because Chem also is holding that 3 seconds of time penalties, and we're 3.4 seconds back of Chem. So we do have the opportunity, if we can just make a couple of tenths before the end of the race, to jump 2 positions and get ourselves into the points. And right now we are in a points paying position because we will be just ahead of El Gloverino for 10th. And I believe that some of the cars up ahead also have some penalties, the quantity of which I did not know at that time, so my eyes were very much set on that delta time, that 3.6 seconds now to Chem in the Red Bull in 9th place, looking to jump the 2 cars to get out ahead. But you can already see red sectors coming in, not quite going as quick as we could on the soft tires, already starting to degrade. We set that 119.1 just about a lap or so after coming out of the pits, And the lap time starting to fall off again, 19.6. So we've lost about half a second of pace overall, even with 6 laps still to go, or 7 laps still to go, as we're on lap 26 of 33 now. And El Gloverino now dancing right on that 3-second margin just ahead of us. So we've got to try and get a little bit of a move on as he's closing right up to Kem, but they are kind of giving some DRS help, and it's making it much harder for me to catch. And there is an Alpine just out ahead of that group as well. So I believe that is Gali, who we saw earlier with 6 seconds of time penalties. So we might be within range of him at the end of this race as well. Tough run for him after putting it on the podium in his first return at Singapore. Now this other track really proving to be quite a struggle for some drivers over others. Well, let's jump ahead now. Lap 31 of 33. Issei has picked up another 3 seconds of time penalties, so he's at 12 seconds and now 12 seconds back of us. Kem has picked up an extra 3 seconds of time penalties, so even though we've managed to close up within that 3-second time gap to him, he is carrying more time penalties even. Gali has kind of opened up a little bit of a gap to him. We're not seeing them run 1, 2, 3 all together anymore. We'll get a little glimpse, still not able to see them. But with 2 laps left to go in this one, we are going to just try and hold on to this position. We are in a spot where we can get at least 9th by jumping ahead of Gloverino and Kem. But we may even, depending on how far out ahead Gali gets, have an opportunity to pick off another position in that one. Still running 11th on track, so we've made up a couple of positions, only a few non-finishers, a couple missed at the end, or a couple drivers will be missing at the end. We started with 17 down to 14 now, and we started, of course, 15th of the 17, so we were always, at this point, if we finished, guaranteed to move up from our starting position, but we are still hunting for points as Kem gets back outside of that 3-second margin, although that's not as much of a target for us at this stage, and it's really just kind of forcing these tires around. We had to carry a little bit more fuel than we wanted to for just about the entire race because of that early safety car. We burned a little bit of it off, and we are just only about 1 lap up, and Jinx is into the pits because he disconnected from the session in his AI as he was trying to run those hards essentially from safety car to the end of the race, has pitted him. So we're up into the 10th spot now. It's unfortunate for Jinx, but disconnects happen as we experienced rather famously in Season 1 in Canada, where we had a disconnect and were unable to even take part in the race, and the AI drove to 2nd place. But that we did not keep that result in the rain just because we did not drive any part of it. We qualified, but as soon as lights were out, my internet died. So one of the last races I hadn't finished, MJ Povey takes the race win, is 4 on the trot now, has had quite a significant run of form. We're only 1.9 seconds back of El Gloverino, but not going to be in a position to take him on track. We are in the points now and looking at P8, depending on where Gali is at and how many penalties Gali has. You can see Issei has closed up a second now. He's gotten into nearly a 1-second margin, although we are very comfortable in this final stage, not pushing too hard, just trying to stay with Gali, driving about as well as we normally did. Weren't able to really make any inroads on the track though, but we're going to cross the start-finish line and indeed jump Gali. So we are coming across P7 at the moment. We will see. I'm sure there are some track limits penalties that are going to be appealed at the in this one, so our results may change, but our teammate Sid on the podium in his return to the FRS grid, so a good drive for him. Some solid points for Mercedes, and Mid Falcon coming in 2nd place on this one, so getting some good solid points for the Haas team to help them start to move up the Constructors' Championship. But Povey at the top, Mid Falcon P2, and Sid in P3 this time around. And rounding up, Nemesis just off the podium there in 4th, a good drive from the back. LC Fighter in 5th, Brenschel, ourselves, El Gloverino, and Gali Mooms making that final little group of the top 10 there. And unfortunately, I wasn't thinking and rushed through the standing screen and did not grab everybody very well, so we'll wait till I am smart and move stuff off the screen to look. And I was just kind of checking the strategy. Mid Falcon coming in under that safety car. Sid staying out on those softs for 15 laps, really drove them a long way, and then had a very good drive on those mediums at the end. But then you have Kem rounding out the top 10. Habsfan Nick failing to score points, I think, for the first time this season. Issei, Jinx, and Stanier make your top 14 for your running order. I believe it is Cryptic, Backwas, and I don't recall the last driver that DNF'd in this one. But a decent run around a very tough track for us. Looking forward to getting back onto circuits that we know is definitely a massive challenge to learn this one. So we should be headed to Circuit of the Americas next for the to close out 3/4 of the season. We'll have a break week and then 3 more races to go. It's looking like Zandvoort might be getting replaced. But let's take a look at the standings, of course, pending any stewards inquiries. This is just today. So MJ Povey on 153 points with only 4 races left to go in the season has the opportunity to clinch next time out. Habsfan Nick still in second on 90. Nemesis breaking the tie with us up on 76 points as we stay with 70 in P4. LC Fighter making some moves up into 5th now behind us. Brenschel still in 6th. El Gloverino is up to P7 now. We have Issei in P8 and Johan in P9. Mid-Falcon's strong result moves them up into P10 above their teammate Pep Meister. Voki is still 12th with 23 points to their name. Cryptic in 13th. Then you have Kem in 14th on 20 points as well. Gali and Jinx tied on 17 points as Gali picked up a couple of more points to go with his podium. Sid with his fastest lap in P3 gives himself 16 points and puts himself 17th in the overall standings. Statman Joey and Stanier tied on 12 points. And you have Backwas Boy and Cameron Slater rounding out the finishing or the driver's standings order this far into the season. DPT Paul and Boom Tech have officially pulled out at this stage, so they will no longer be shown. Now let's take a look at how that impacts the constructor standings. Williams up in first on 170 points, but Aston Martin making the move now into second on 143. Ferrari still strong pairing there, though not quite the results they had been getting earlier in the season, is in third on 129. Mercedes in fourth on 99 points, pulling a little bit clear of McLaren in fifth. AlphaTauri on 71 points, just a couple of spots ahead of Haas on 69 points, so that fight is starting to shape up pretty good. Red Bull still within touching distance there in 8th, and Alfa Romeo and Alpine both failed to score this time around, staying on that P9 and P10 with 29 and 21 points apiece. And before we go, let's take a look at the final schedule. Of course, this weekend was originally scheduled to be the Japanese Grand Prix, but with the release of Portugal and Portimao, that has taken that spot in round 8. We have the sprint race of the US Grand Prix the next weekend out, and then we have a break weekend. Though it is still currently scheduled as Zandvoort in the Netherlands and Australia up, Imola might take one of those 2 slots. And then we have the season finale in November, Brazil, to round out season 4 of the FRS. So we've had a solid season so far. A couple of podiums, 2 podiums already has tied our best for season. And we are looking to try and crack 109 points was what we scored in season 2 is our best points total so far in the FRS. We'll see if we can't improve on that and try and get up. But I'll catch you guys next time. Thank you all for joining me. Peace.